Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. Monday Night Raw tonight was from the Allstate Arena in Chicago, Illinois. And the show just ended 6 minutes ago as I am doing this review. But Monday Night Raw tonight, as always, this show was terrible. This show was absolutely boring. And next week is WrestleMania, and there is no hype going into WrestleMania. There's literally nothing. Doesn't even feel like WrestleMania season. And next week on Monday Night Raw, they announced some matches that are going to take place. And mostly the matches that I saw was basically a rematch. Yeah, sounds like a awesome Monday Night Raw. It's going to be next week for the go-home show for WrestleMania. Said it before and I'll say it again. WrestleMania is shaping up to be one of the worst WrestleManias that WWE is ever going to produce. It's filled with part-timers and celebrities. I mean, who cares to see The Miz and Logan Paul versus the Mysterios? Who cares to see Sami Zayn versus Johnny Knoxville? Tell me, who is looking forward to those matches on the WrestleMania card? The only matches that I'm looking forward to on the WrestleMania card is Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar, because I want to see how WWE is going to unify the titles, the WWE Championship and the Universal Championship. But I know they'll possibly fuck that up somehow. And also Edge versus AJ Styles. Everything else, I don't care for. And news broke out that Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey is not going to main event night one of WrestleMania. Thank God. What's going to main event night one of WrestleMania is the KO show with Austin and Kevin Owens. So you have a segment closing out night one of WrestleMania. Seth Rollins still is without an opponent for WrestleMania, which obviously we all know is going to be Cody Rhodes. And, Seth Rollins at the end of the show, which I'll get to explaining, he said, Monday Night Raw is not going to happen next week until he gets a opponent for WrestleMania. So they're just playing this out. We obviously know it's going to be Cody. We're going to be seeing Cody at WrestleMania, so that's the matchup there. Seth Rollins and Cody Rhodes. On Monday Night Raw tonight, we had Rhea and Dominik versus Dolph Ziegler and Roode. We had a 2-on-1 handicap match where Omos ended up taking on Apollo Crews and Commander Azeez. So basically, Omos ended up squashing Apollo Crews 2 weeks ago, and then he squashed Commander Azeez last week. So, WWE finest creative in there in that creative department. Let's just take Apollo Crews and Commander Azeez, put him in a handicap match against Omos. Like, we have seen this before. Omos squashed both these men. And WWE creative and Vince and Bruce approved of this match, of this handicap match. Only for Apollo Crews and Commander Azeez to get squashed again by Omos. Awful. Then we got Shayna Baszler and Natalya versus Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley. We saw Finn Balor versus Austin Theory, which we saw 2 weeks ago, even though Balor won the match by disqualification 2 weeks ago. So we got that match again. And then we saw RKBro versus the Alpha Academy for the 20th time? And then we had a mixed tag team tornado match. Reggie and Dana Brooke versus Akira, Tozawa, and Tamina. God. How embarrassing was this match? Which I'll get to explaining. And the main event, it was AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins. And this was Seth's final chance to go to WrestleMania. And if Seth won the match. He would take on Edge at WrestleMania, so Styles would be out. Typical WWE with their obviously, we all knew that Styles was going to win the match, but of course, something happened at the end, which I'll get to explaining when I talk about that. Overall, this Raw was god-awful. Terrible. Let's jump right into the review. Monday Night Raw opened up with Stone Cold Steve Austin's music playing. The crowd ended up going crazy, but of course we didn't get Austin. Obviously, I didn't even fall for this because I knew this was a trick to get the crowd, going wild. So we got Kevin Owens end up coming out. Kevin Owens was dressed as Austin. He was wearing an Austin 316 shirt. He had a bald cap, which the bald cap on Kevin Owens, it looked bad because you saw like the tips of the bald cap was showing. Like how when you do like these TV shows and movies, if a character is in like a bald cap, you don't see like certain points of it, just show. But there you had points where the bald cap was showing on Kevin Owens with like pieces of it, which you don't see that in movies and TV shows where characters, like when they pretend to be bald, you don't even see pieces of the bald cap there. But here, it just looked pretty bad. Just showing pieces of the bald cap on top of Kevin Owens. So I thought this was hilarious. I thought this was funny. How the way Kevin Owens looked as Austin. So Kevin Owens ended up getting on the mic. The crowd was pissed at Owens swerving them, thinking that Austin was going to come out. Like I said, I even knew that this was a swerve. I didn't even fall for it. So Kevin Owens ended up doing his impersonation of Austin. He ended up asking for Ray to see Kevin Owens open up a can of whoop ass on Stone Cold Steve Austin at WrestleMania. So Owens ended up mocking Austin, and the crowd ended up chanting, "We want Austin." So Owens ended up saying that the crowd has got to be the stupidest sons of bitches he's ever seen. So we hear Stone Cold Steve Austin's music playing again, and the crowd, of course, once again, popped for that. So Owens ended up dropping his fists because Owens was ready to fight Austin as Austin's music started playing. But of course, Kevin Owens dropped his fist, started laughing, so he fooled the crowd again, thinking that Austin was going to come out, which obviously didn't even fall for that. So Owens ended up saying that the crowd are absolute idiots. And that's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so. Kevin Owens ended up saying that Stone Cold needs some liquid courage to get to WrestleMania. So Owens then ended up calling for some beers. We had Austin's music end up playing again. Owens was tossed a few beers, but he couldn't catch the beers, just like Austin does. So he ended up offering the guy to throw a second beer for him to catch, and he missed that. Owens ended up missing catching that. Owens picked the mic back up. He ended up calling for the music to be cut, Austin's music to be cut. So Owens ended up insulting a crew member at ringside. He ended up telling that crew member to grab a beer and bring it into the ring. So one of the crew members ended up bringing the beer into the ring, and the crew member turned to leave. Owens then ended up dropping the crew member with a stunner. Owens ended up opening up the beer, and he gives the guy a beer bath, the crew member a beer bath, and he pours the beer all over the crew member. And Owens ended up stepping on the crew member, posed in the corner, and he was doing his Stone Cold impression. And that was basically how the segment ended. But Kevin Owens doing his impression of Stone Cold Steve Austin, I thought it was funny. I thought this whole segment was funny. The segment works. A funny segment works if it's if it has good writing to it. Mostly some of the segments that WWE does, that when they try so hard to be funny, it just comes off as cringe and terrible. I thought this was very funny. I thought this was good. And Kevin Owens, doing his good impersonation of Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like I said, even though pieces of the ball cap looked pretty bad because you saw like pieces of it, but still, it was funny, and Kevin Owens really enjoyed here. So. And this was the possibly the best segment of the night, in my opinion. And then we had Kevin Patrick. Kevin Patrick was backstage with Seth Rollins. Kevin Patrick was asking Rollins about his current state of mind when he faces the fact that Rollins is not going to WrestleMania. So, of course, we had the fans chanting Cody. Rollins didn't even say anything at this point, and he was just laughing at Kevin Patrick, and then he started he grabbed the mic from Kevin Patrick. He ended up saying that he's going to borrow the mic. And so he ended up walking off. And pretty much that was basically that. And then we went to the first match of the night. Rey and Dominik Mysterio versus Dolph Ziggler and Roode. Rey Mysterio and Dominik ended up coming out first. Rey jumped on Dominik's back as they headed to the ring, and they ended up grabbing a Mexican flag from the crowd, posed within the corner, and I really liked the mask that Rey was wearing tonight. Thought it looked cool. And then, as Monday Night Raw came back from commercial, out came Dolph Ziggler and Roode. Can you all believe that Dolph Ziggler is the NXT champion? Can you all believe that? Why is he NXT champion? But we had The Miz end up coming out. Miz end up getting on commentary for the match. So the match started off with Dolph Ziggler and Dominik. They end up going at it. Dominik delivered a deep arm drag to Dolph Ziggler, and he ended up sending Dolph out to the floor. Ziggler ended up shoving Dominik back first into the edge of the apron. Ziggler then ended up bringing Dominik back into the ring. He tagged in Roode. Roode and Dolph ended up double teaming up on Dominik, but Rey ended up making the save. Dolph ended up attacking Rey, and Rey ended up sending him out to the floor. Dominik ended up delivering some drop kicks to Roode out of the ring to the floor. And we had Seth Rollins end up coming out to the stage. So Rollins ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that this show doesn't continue until the world hears what he has to say. He ended up saying that he wants a WrestleMania spot, and he will get it because he's Seth frickin' Rollins. So Rollins, he was having some mic troubles here a little bit. He ended up saying that he wants a WrestleMania spot that will live on forever. He ended up saying that he tried to get Steve Austin last week, but now he wants bigger. So we had Rollins' mic end up getting cut off as Raw went to commercial. Then as Monday Night Raw came back from commercial, Dolph Ziggler ended up having Rey up on top for a superplex. but Ray ended up resisting. He ended up headbutting Dolph Ziggler down to the mat. He ended up kicking Roode off the apron. Ray then ended up hitting a senton from the top onto Dolph Ziggler. Dolph ended up catching a kick, and Ray ended up nailing Dolph with an enziguri. Roode ended up tagging in. He ended up running over to knock Dominik off the apron. Ray countered Roode with a tornado DDT. Dominik tagged in, and he ended up coming off the top with a crossbody, and he delivered a hurricanrana. So at the end of the match, Dominik ended up going for the 619 on Roode, which he ended up hitting it on Roode, and then he went up to the top, delivered the frog splash on Roode. He ended up going for the cover. So there you go. Ray and Dominik ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Dolph end up super kicking Dominik out of nowhere. Dolph ended up retreating out of the ring. Ray ended up chasing him around the ring. And so Miz jumped up from his chair and he decked Ray. And then he ended up dropping Ray with the skull-crushing finale on the floor on the outside. And then Miz snatched Ray's mask off. And he raised it in the air. He got boos. So Ray was rolling around the ground. He was covering his face. You know, like always, whenever somebody takes off Ray's mask, he's always covering himself. So Miz ended up snatching a Rey Mysterio fan sign. He ripped it up while he was taunting Ray and Dominik with Ray's mask. So Dominik stood in the ring, and Ray had a towel over his head, and pretty much that was basically that. But overall, this match was just very meh, in my opinion. I mean, who is looking forward to? Who cares about the Mysterios versus the Miz and Logan Paul at WrestleMania? I know I don't. It's going to be one boring match there at WrestleMania. So Seth Rollins was backstage with Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville. Rollins ended up accusing both Deville and Pearce of the both of them trying to silence him. He ended up telling the both of them that he wants the biggest spotlight at WrestleMania. So Pearce ended up saying to Rollins that acting like a lunatic won't get him what he wants. Sonya Deville ended up saying to Rollins that they gave him a chance last week, and he failed. So Pearce ended up telling Rollins to calm down and let him look at it. Maybe there's something they can do. So Rollins laughed, and then he walked off, and that was that. And then we saw The Miz backstage. He was still holding Rey Mysterio's mask. So Kevin Patrick ended up approaching The Miz. Kevin Patrick asked The Miz why he did what he did to Rey Mysterio. So Miz ended up telling Kevin Patrick about how Logan Paul watched Rey as a kid and wanted nothing but his own mask, his own Rey Mysterio mask. But Miz ended up saying that Logan Paul has met Rey and his son Dominik, and they're not what he thought as a kid. So Miz ended up saying that him and Logan Paul will humiliate the Mysterios at WrestleMania. He ended up saying that he took Rey's mask for Logan Paul and will give it to him after having it steam cleaned. So Miz ended up daring Logan Paul to wear Rey's mask next week on Raw. So that was that. And then we had a 2-on-1 handicap match. Omos versus Apollo Crews and Commander Azeez. Didn't we already see Omos squash these two in the past 2 weeks? We saw him squash Apollo Crews 2 weeks ago, and we saw him squash Commander Azeez last week. So WWE Creative thought it was a good idea to put Apollo Crews and Commander Azeez in the ring with Omos again, only for them to be squashed once again by Omos. Ridiculous. This match shouldn't even took place. So we had Apollo Crews and Commander Azeez getting squashed again by Omos. So this was a squash match. Omos ended up winning. Post-match, Omos ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up saying that it doesn't matter how big they are or what strong they are. He's undefeated and unstoppable. More like undefeated and boring. Omos is absolutely terrible in the ring. And he was given the "what" chant by the crowd. So Omos ended up saying that if anyone has the balls to step up and face him on Raw or at WrestleMania, they will all be dominated. So Omos ended up looking straight at the camera, and then he looked up at the WrestleMania sign. And that was that. But Omos is in the news. Apparently, Omos is reportedly scheduled for a match at WrestleMania. Oh, God. And reading this off of WrestlingInc.com, WWE is reportedly planning a WrestleMania singles match for Omos. Omos quickly won his feud over former tag partner AJ Styles earlier this year, and it's reported then that WWE had big plans for the big man on the road to WrestleMania. Now WrestleVotes reports that as of now, there is a singles match plan for Omos at WrestleMania. There is no name who Omos will go against at WrestleMania, but it was noted that the opponent may surprise some people. So it's not going to surprise people. If I had to take who Omos' opponent will be at WrestleMania, it's going to be Bobby Lashley. That's my prediction. I think Bobby Lashley is going to face Omos at WrestleMania. That's my prediction. I saw people saying, oh, it could be the Great Khali. Can you imagine if the Great Khali was Omos' opponent? God. Let's make WrestleMania even more of a failure this year. So Omos is going to have a match at WrestleMania. Jeez. So then we had AJ Styles. Styles ended up coming out, and Styles ended up getting on the mic. He ended up saying that he's been missing this because he's been at home recovering from an injury. He ended up saying about how having a lot of time can be a bad thing. Styles ended up saying that he watched the clip of Edge attacking him over and over, and it was driving him crazy. And he didn't want to see his kids or spend time with his wife, and he was just consumed with what happened. And then Edge showed up on Raw again, run his mouth. Styles ended up saying that he's not here to get answers and doesn't care about why. Styles ended up saying that he's here to kick Edge's teeth down his throat. And he ended up saying that Edge wants the Pitbull version of Styles, and he will get him at WrestleMania. But there's no sense in waiting. So Styles is like, we can do this right now. So Styles ended up calling Edge to come out to the ring to fight. So Styles ended up calling Edge a coward because Edge didn't come out. So Styles didn't get Edge. He got Seth Rollins. So Rollins ended up coming out. Rollins ended up coming into the ring. He faced off with Styles. Rollins ended up telling Chicago to simmer down. And he was saying, they don't make moments. He is looking for his WrestleMania moment. Rollins ended up staring at Styles, and Styles ended up telling him to cut the crap. So Styles ended up asking Rollins what he wants. Rollins ended up saying that he's concerned about Styles' health, and if he's physically and emotionally capable of facing Edge at WrestleMania. Rollins ended up saying that he has a proposition. He ended up telling Styles to go home to his family, hug them close, and get to being 100% and come back after WrestleMania. But Rollins ended up saying, oh, let him do what he should have done before, and that is end Edge's career on the grandest stage of them all, WrestleMania, because that is a moment befitting Rollins. So Rollins ended up telling Styles to think about it. Styles ended up shooting the idea down. He ended up saying that as long as he's able to walk, he will be there to face Edge. So Rollins ended up saying, so if for some unfortunate reason Styles got taken out, does that mean he can have his spot at WrestleMania? So Styles ended up seeing what Rollins was doing, and just the same shit that WWE did last week with Rollins. The same thing Rollins tried to do with Kevin Owens, where, oh, if Rollins won last week, Kevin Owens is out of WrestleMania, and Rollins would be the one to interview Stone Cold Steve Austin. They're doing the same thing here. They did the same thing here with Styles. So if Rollins ended up winning, he would get to face Edge at WrestleMania. And we already seen Rollins and Edge go at it. So Styles ended up asking if he got it right. Rollins ended up saying that sounds good to him. So what does Chicago think? Rollins ended up saying desperate times call for desperate measures, and he's running out of time. Styles ended up saying that Rollins dresses like some idiot, and he's delusional if he thinks he will just give up his WrestleMania opportunity. So Styles ended up saying that he's going to do what Rollins couldn't, and that he's going to destroy Edge, and then he will get back to him and Rollins. So then Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville end up coming out. They stopped on the stage. Adam Pearce ended up announcing that Rollins will face AJ Styles later on tonight, and it will be Rollins' last chance to go to WrestleMania. So, you know, saying that if Rollins can beat Styles tonight, he will replace Styles at WrestleMania in the match against Edge. So Rollins was fired up, and Styles was upset. Styles ended up dropping Rollins with a right hand, started unloading on Rollins. Rollins quickly retreated out to the floor, started taunting Styles while he was backing up the ramp. And pretty much that was basically that. But this is the same shit that they did with Kevin Owens last week. And then they did it this week with AJ Styles. You know, with Rollins there. Rinse and repeat. Typical WWE. Just rinse and repeat. Oh, we've seen that last week. We've seen the same situation last week. Only let's do it this week. Again. Typical rinse and repeat. And then we saw Carmella and Zelina Vega backstage. Vega was still not happy with how Carmella isn't focused on their match at WrestleMania, and that Carmella is too worried about her phone and her stupid wedding and her stupid little reality show, which WWE hasn't even posted a Corey and Carmella episode in weeks because it got the lowest ratings on WWE's YouTube channel. So Zelina Vega ended up taking Carmella's phone. She ended up throwing it. And then Vega ended up calling Carmella an ugly bridezilla, to which Carmella ended up slapping Zelina Vega and called her a little hobbit. So Vega ended up decking Carmella. They started brawling, and officials and referees ended up showing up to pull the both of them apart. And pretty much that was basically that. But Carmella and Zelina Vega, they're losing the titles at WrestleMania. And then we had AJ Styles. Styles ended up confronting both Sonya Deville and Adam Pearce in the back. Styles ended up knocking both Deville and Pearce for being bad at their jobs. And he ended up saying that he will take care of Seth Rollins and secure his own WrestleMania moment. So then Styles ended up storming off. And that was that. And then we had Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley versus Shayna Baszler and Natalya. What are Shayna Baszler and Natalya doing on Raw tonight? They're SmackDown superstars. This match was boring. So we had Shayna Baszler and Rhea Ripley starting off the match. So we had Rhea Ripley deliver the right hand, but it got blocked by Shayna Baszler. She ended up rocking Shayna Baszler with the other hand. Rhea Ripley ended up dropping Shayna Baszler to one knee and ended up delivering a drop kick. Rhea Ripley ended up slamming Shayna Baszler face first into the ring, in the middle of the ring. And then she ended up taking in Liv Morgan. And Baszler ended up turning around on Morgan. She tagged in Natalya. Morgan ended up taking control, ended up nailing her Hurricanrana to Natalya. And we had Carmella end up coming out. Carmella ended up coming down to the commentary table. She was ranting to her soon-to-be husband, Corey Graves, about what Zelina Vega did backstage. So it was just basically that. Carmella just ranting to Corey Graves on what Zelina Vega did. So it was just Byron Saxton and Jimmy Smith just commentating through the match. So in the end, Shayna Baszler and Natalya end up winning the match, where Baszler and Natalya end up hitting the heart attack on Liv Morgan. And there you go. Shayna Baszler and Natalya end up winning. Post-match, Zelina Vega ended up running down. She ended up decking Rhea Ripley from behind with the scepter. Carmella ended up fighting off Natalya and Shayna Baszler at ringside. And so Carmella ended up coming into the ring. She and Zelina Vega were having some words. And then they started hugging and smiling. So Carmella and Zelina Vega ended up raising the women's tag team titles in the air. And that was that. So if this was for us to care about the fight that Carmella and Zelina Vega had backstage, they failed. Like, nobody's going to care about the little brawl that they had. Overall, this match was boring. And now we have Becky Lynch. Becky Lynch ended up coming out looking like Lady Gaga with the attire that she was wearing tonight. And she was wearing a visor. I'm like, what is that, a VR visor that she was wearing? Was she looking at VR while she was making her way down? So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Becky Lynch got on the mic and she was being booed by the crowd. She was sitting in the chair in the middle of the ring. Becky Lynch ended up saying that she would go through anything to keep her Raw Women's Championship. And she was taunting Bianca for not having what it takes to beat her. Becky ended up saying that it's an eye for an eye, a throat for a throat. So she ended up saying that Bianca isn't here tonight, which we all know why Bianca is out. You know, if you saw Monday Night Raw last week, where Becky ended up wrapping the chair around Bianca and ramming her into the ring post, you already know why Bianca is out. So Becky ended up saying Bianca doesn't want to lose her own soul, while she has already lost hers, and she will do what it takes to keep the Raw Women's Championship on her shoulder. So Becky ended up asking Bianca, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul? Becky ended up saying that she will show Bianca and the world what it means at WrestleMania, if she makes it there. So Becky ended up dropping the mic, ended up raising the Raw Women's Championship in the air, and that was that. But overall, this was cringe. This was cringe by Becky. The segment was terrible. Just Becky in this whole role, it just doesn't suit her. Like, she was forced to be a heel. Like, nobody wants to boo Becky. But this is WWE. You know, they want to force us to boo Becky. Becky's just coming off as cringe in this segment here. And then we saw Sarah Schreiber. Sarah Schreiber was backstage with Austin Theory. Austin Theory ended up telling Sarah Schreiber that he doesn't care if Pat McAfee's apology was sincere because he's a dumb jock. But he finally did something smart, and that's apologize. If you remember on SmackDown on Friday, Pat McAfee was called into Vince's office, and then Pat McAfee came out to the ring. He apologized to Austin Theory. So Theory ended up saying Pat McAfee has no business getting in the ring with him. He ended up saying that he's going to beat Pat McAfee at WrestleMania. But if he goes and talks to his mentor, which is Vince McMahon, then Pat McAfee won't have his job as a commentator. And that's another loss. So Sarah Schreiber ended up asking Austin Theory about Finn Balor and if he's had time to prepare for his match. So Austin Theory ended up knocking Balor, ended up saying that he has room for one more selfie with Balor on his road to WrestleMania. So that was what Theory had to say. And then we had Balor versus Austin Theory, which Austin Theory ended up coming out first. And then as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we had another Veer Mahaan coming soon vignette, which we did get a date for Veer Mahaan finally making his Monday Night Raw debut. So Veer Mahaan is debuting on the Raw after WrestleMania. And I'm going to say now, and I may be wrong on this, but this is my prediction. When Veer Mahaan comes out on the Raw after WrestleMania, watch he gets 0 reactions from the crowd there. Watch. All these months, they have been promoting, oh, Veer Mahaan's coming to Raw. Veer Mahaan's coming to Raw. He's coming. And yet, they're going to debut him on the Raw after WrestleMania. I don't remember how many months that we have seen coming soon. Veer Mahaan is coming to Raw. Watch him get 0 reaction from the crowd on that Raw after WrestleMania. So yeah, he's coming to the Raw after WrestleMania on April 4th. Veer Mahaan. So then we had the match. Finn Balor versus Austin Theory. Balor ended up coming out. So we had them announce that there is going to be a special guest commentator for the match. And the commentator is Pat McAfee. So Pat McAfee ended up making his way down. Austin Theory was seething. He was pissed. So the match ended up starting. Balor ended up grabbing Theory, but he ended up taking a back elbow. Theory ended up dropping Balor. Balor ended up rolling him up off a distraction. Theory was yelling at Pat McAfee. So Theory ended up delivering a forearm shot to the back of Balor. Balor ended up countering a roll-up, and he hit a basement dropkick to Theory. So Pat McAfee was taunting away at Austin Theory, started throwing crotch chops at him. Balor ended up running over and taking advantage of the distraction, which sent Theory into the barricade with a dropkick. So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Theory ended up having Balor grounded in the middle of the ring. Pat McAfee ended up getting up from the commentary table. He was rallying for Balor at ringside. Pat McAfee was taunting Theory. And just, points, Pat McAfee was just wanting to run over to Austin Theory. Like to distract Theory. Which Pat McAfee later on, he got back on the apron, started talking trash, distracting Austin Theory. Theory ended up scooping Balor for the ATL, but he was taunting Pat McAfee. So Pat McAfee ended up distracting Theory once again and led to Balor rolling up Theory. So there you go. Balor ended up winning the match. But overall, nothing different in this match. We saw this match 2 weeks ago, but Balor won by disqualification 2 weeks ago. But here, Balor got a clean win on Austin Theory, with thanks to Pat McAfee. And then we had RKBro versus the Alpha Academy. So we had the Alpha Academy end up coming out because RKBro made their way out first. So the Alpha Academy, Owens and Chad Gable end up coming out. Chad Gable end up getting on the mic. Of course, he's going with the whole stupid shush. And he starts talking trash to the crowd in Chicago. And then he focused on Orton and Riddle. Chad Gable ended up saying that RK-Bro screwed up their chances by making the WrestleMania match a triple threat match with the Street Profits. But they will still prevail and leave with the Raw Tag Team Championships. And then Chad Gable was like, oh, thank you. And can you believe that the shush saying made it on a t-shirt for the Alpha Academy? Can you believe that? Awful. Who would buy that shirt that says shush on it? Awful. So, how many times have we seen this match, RK-Bro and Alpha Academy? Nothing different. Same shit, rinse and repeat. RK-Bro end up winning, where Riddle and Gable were tangling, and Riddle end up hitting the Bro Derek on Gable. So RK-Bro end up winning. Post-match, Otis end up rushing Randy Orton at ringside, tossed him over the barricade. Otis end up hitting the ring. He end up leveling Riddle. Otis end up going for the second rope Vader bomb to Riddle, but the Street Profits end up coming into the ring. Street Profits end up tossing Otis out to the floor. Profits end up double teaming on Gable. Angelo Dawkins end up dropping Riddle with the Sky High. And Montez Ford end up going up to the top. Montez Ford end up hitting the Frog Splash to Riddle. And that was that. Overall, we've seen this match before, RK-Bro and Alpha Academy. The same rinse and repeat. And then we had a Tornado mixed tag team match. Reggie and Dana Brooke. You already know where this is going. Reggie and Dana Brooke versus Tamina and Akira Tozawa. This was an embarrassment. The 24/7 title and everyone involved with it. Dana Brooke, Tamina, Akira Tozawa, Reggie, and R-Truth. We haven't seen R-Truth in a while. So everything that surrounds the 24/7 title needs to be off TV. Every time this title is featured on TV and the superstars surrounded by this title, it's just awful, awful television. So we had Dana Brooke end up getting on Reggie's shoulders as the match started. Tamina ended up trying to get on Tozawa's shoulders, but Tozawa couldn't lift her. Tamina ended up putting Tozawa on her shoulders. Tamina ended up kicking Reggie, and Dana ended up falling off his shoulders. Dana ended up bringing Tozawa off Tamina's shoulders. Tozawa ended up getting sent into Tamina in the corner. And Dana Brooke ended up hitting the handspring elbow to both Tozawa and Tamina in the corner. Tozawa ended up falling, and Tamina ended up falling onto Tozawa, and she ended up hurting Tozawa below the belt. And Dana Brooke delivered a knee followed by a splash by Reggie. Dana Brooke and Reggie ended up winning. Awful. This was an embarrassment. Everything surrounding the 24/7 title needs to be off TV. Every time it is featured is awful fucking garbage. Awful television. Main event, AJ Styles versus Seth Rollins. So if Rollins can beat Styles in this match, he will get to face Edge at WrestleMania. Last chance for Rollins. And this was a good match. Really enjoyed this main event between Styles and Rollins. But we all knew what the outcome was going to be. So Styles ended up making his way out first. And then Seth Rollins. So as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, they end up announcing what we're going to see next week on Raw, which is the go-home show for WrestleMania. We're going to get Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns appearing next week on Raw. Why? When they're on SmackDown. We're getting Rey Mysterio versus The Miz. Snore. Street Profits versus Alpha Academy. Snore. 8-woman tag team match. Sasha Banks, Naomi, Liv Morgan, and Rhea Ripley versus Natalya, Shayna Baszler, and Carmella and Zelina Vega. Oh man, this sounds like a good go-home show for Monday Night Raw next week. Already sounds like a bore. So the match ended up started. Rollins ended up touring Styles. Styles ended up working on Rollins' arm. Rollins countered, started touring Styles some more. Styles ended up grounding Rollins with a headlock. Rollins then broke free and they both ran the ropes. Rollins delivered a sling blade to Styles. And Rollins was going for the pedigree, which Styles ended up blocking it with a backdrop. Styles ended up missing a leaping right hand into the corner, and Rollins ended up charging. Styles ended up launching Rollins out to the floor. Styles launched himself from the ring out to the floor, dropping Rollins with a strike to the face. And as Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, Rollins was in control of the match. Styles was looking to mount some offense. He was working on Rollins' leg. Styles then delivered a dragon screw leg whip in the middle of the ring to Rollins. Styles was going for Rollins' leg in the corner, but Rollins fought him off. Rollins then started stomping on Styles, dropped him with a DDT, which he went for the cover, which Styles ended up kicking out too. Rollins then delivered some chops in the corner to Styles. Rollins ended up turning Styles upside down in the corner, and he ended up running the ring, hit a hanging drop kick. So Styles ended up kicking out. Rollins couldn't believe it. Styles was fighting Rollins out of the corner as Styles ended up going to springboard in from the apron for the phenomenal forearm. But Rollins ended up knocking Styles out of the air to the floor. Rollins ran the ropes, nailed a suicide dive, which sent Styles into the commentary table. And towards the end of the match, we had Styles end up going for the phenomenal forearm. Rollins ended up approaching, but Styles knocked him back, and he got ready for the phenomenal forearm again. And then Edge appeared out of nowhere, and Edge ended up hitting Styles with the chair. And Edge looked like he hit Styles' arm with the chair, which looked pretty brutal. Looked like he hit Styles' arm hard with the chair. So the referee ended up calling for the bell. So Styles ended up winning by disqualification. And post-match, Edge ended up hitting Styles one more time with the chair. He backed away. Rollins was seated. He had some words with the referee. So they ended up announcing that Styles is the winner by disqualification, and he will be the one to face Edge at WrestleMania. So Rollins was furious. Rollins was flipping out at ringside. Rollins ended up standing on top of the commentary table, and he ended up declaring that this is bullshit. So Rollins then wanted to say that next week, Raw will not happen until he gets what he deserves, his WrestleMania moment. So Rollins then tossed the mic. He was throwing a fit at ringside. He was kicking over the barricade, tearing up the apron of the barricade. He flipped over the commentary table. He ripped the ring post cover off of the ring post and just going crazy. Kicking the ring steps. So that was how Monday Night Raw ended. Rollins end up looking up at the WrestleMania sign, and that was that. But Rollins will get his match with Cody. It's obviously going to be Rollins versus Cody at WrestleMania. I see that happening on night 2 of WrestleMania. So we'll get Cody to appear at WrestleMania, and he'll be the one to face Seth Rollins. But overall, Monday Night Raw, terrible show tonight. Just very boring outside of the main event and the opening segment with Kevin Owens, being Stone Cold Steve Austin. But anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all on Wednesday with the AEW Dynamite review. So until then, see you all Wednesday night.